It's wild.
We're not transporting racks of gear anymore.
That could only really happen with the power of the partnership.
Cloud is absolutely a great place to do that, right? There's my little plug.
The strategic collaboration between Amazon MGM Studios and Avid has been going on for 4 years now.
Keeping people future-proof for going forwards and what's to come.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Making the Media. My name is Craig Wilson. We hope you're enjoying our little sojourn into the world of NAB and the discussions that were held there. This time around, we're going to be focusing on our partnership with AWS. They are key to us, of course, enabling great collaborative remote workflows with Avid NEXIS and Media Composer running in the AWS cloud, plus providing the foundation on which Avid Content Core is built. And if you're not sure what Avid Content Core is, then stick around to find out. The partnership between Avid and AWS was announced about a year ago and has really gone from strength to strength with the addition of NEXIS remote workflows, allowing editors to work seamlessly with storage in the cloud while using Media Composer in their facility. Let's find out a lot more about the partnership with a great panel of guests. Joining me are Rachel Kelly, AWS Principal Tech Business Development Manager, Daniel Gonzalez, AWS Worldwide Partner Solutions Architect, and Brandon Lindauer, who's a global specialist with AWS. Then from Avid, we have Director of Post-Production Marketing Danny Hollingsworth, and in a little bit, we'll hear from our Senior Product Manager Anna Buzzard, who'll show us Avid Content Core running on AWS. But let's begin by hearing from Brandon about the benefits the partnership brings.
Our joint customers are giving us signals and telling us things that they want. They want to be able to work flexibly. They want to be able to work wherever. And the cloud is absolutely a great place to do that, right? There's my little plug. But in doing that, it's been fantastic to have that partnership with Avid because we can have that two-way dialogue, and it's not just one party saying, let's try to make this happen, but it's both parties coming together and saying, here's the signals we're seeing, here's what our customers need, and being able to deliver better outcomes for our joint customers and the industry at large.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point there about mutual customers. I think what we're looking to develop here isn't about point products and things like that. It is about a solution to the challenges that they face.
Absolutely, our customers. I mean, this show, for example, is a great example. People don't come to this show because they're looking for a product. They're looking for a solution to their business problem. They're looking for a way to do a thing, and if we can come together and provide them that, it's beneficial to everybody at large. So we absolutely love working with you guys on that.
Yeah, so we have Danny and Daniel. So Danny at the far end there. Obviously, Danny, post-production is a really important part. We're going to start the discussion here and talk about some of the workflows that have been enabled through the partnership that was announced about a year ago now between Avid and AWS. So talk about some of the post-production workflows that are enabled and the Avid products that are involved in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge really for us was being able to take some of the things that people have relied on in the industry for many decades, right? Things like NEXIS and Media Composer, those kind of core post-production workflows, and be able to do those in the cloud, but at scale as well. So really it was looking at how can we take some of the virtual file system of NEXIS and make that deployable, rapid deployment in AWS, and then obviously enable that to perform well for not just an edit, but the biggest edits in the world, right? We're talking about feature films going out to cinema, all the way to reality program, the largest types of productions. So it wasn't really just about taking that technology, but being able to do it in a highly scalable way. So yeah, I think the first thing was, can we really do post-production in the cloud? And I think we were speaking about that this time last year, and I think we've kind of proven that out now. So that was our main focus out of the gate.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you mentioned there is that these are tools that a lot of people in the industry have used for a long time. As a consequence of that, our users are pretty demanding about how these tools perform. So what's the user experience like from rather than having a Media Composer and NEXIS that's in an office around the corner to actually a Media Composer and storage it's actually running in the cloud? What's the user experience like?
Yeah, I think that's been really exciting for us, because what we've found is that we're able to not only replicate that experience, but actually go beyond, right? So we have access to types of compute that are really difficult to achieve and do on premise. we're able to spin up in minutes in the cloud. So actually, we're seeing folks talking about performance that they wouldn't actually be able to even achieve on premise. So the kind of concept of, is it as good as what I have? It's like, well, actually, we can do it better. And the other thing is, last year we obviously announced the partnership, and we sort of came to market. I think it's really important that it's really evolved as well. So one of the things we launched was NEXIS Remote. So being able to take the NEXIS file system that we're talking about, and what we announced last year was the ability to have NEXIS and Media Composer up in the cloud together, and you were effectively remoting into a cloud, a virtualized machine attached to that NEXIS in the cloud. When we introduced NEXIS Remote, it really kind of solves the problem of, hey, yes, I want the performance, but I also need things like high-end monitoring. I need access to the actual real material and not just a virtual desktop. And so what we were able to do is have that NEXIS file system give you a full post-production suite and just stream the media to you, so we can cache the content to that media composer. So actually, it's really not just about, can we do it? Yes, we can do that. We can do it better, but also we can do it wherever you are and whatever type of setup you are. So really, it's about that total kind of flexibility and the agility to go and do this stuff rapidly. I think that's really important at a global scale.
Yeah, and I know in some of the testing, we had editors who were asked to describe, what do you think of the performance? And they couldn't tell the difference from something that's running locally on the machine or something that was running on locally in the cloud itself, which I think was really quite amazing. Let's talk about some specific examples. And Rachel, I'm going to come to you for this, because one of the organizations that's really, I think, kind of pioneered a lot of the workflows here has been Amazon MGM Studios. So can you talk a little bit about their experience and the kind of things that they've been doing with the technologies we've just been describing?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's wild to think that the strategic collaboration between Amazon MGM Studios and Avid has been going on for 4 years now.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, just last year we announced AWS and Avid, but Amazon MGM Studios have been working with Avid to integrate NEXIS and Media Composer on AWS and have been actually using these tools in production at scale
How are you doing?
globally. All different genres, episodic, film, scripted, unscripted, and all different sizes of productions. Amazon MGM Studios' goal is to provide these best-in-class tools for productions, uh, whatever the scale or the budget of the production. And so they're able to do that with Avid on AWS, where previously you'd have to manage your big old kit and getting it through customs and getting it where it needs to be when and managing all of that logistics. And now you can just spin up workstations in minutes for a team anywhere. And the team members themselves can be spread all over. And so instead of being limited to, this gal who works here and this guy who works there, you can have the talent that you want working on your show, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it is all about collaboration. It is about accessing the talent, wherever they are. Talk a little bit about, perhaps some of the benefits you see. I mean, you talked there about, shipping kit to different locations, moving things around. There's lots of different ways of doing it now that you're not having to do that. So what are some of the benefits that might extend beyond just the kind of production itself? Are people actually seeing when they're doing that?
Right, absolutely. So it comes down to providing these best-in-class tools for productions of all different sizes all over the place. But one of the key benefits that we're seeing is ease of coordination, less time spent on transportation, security with these software-driven workflows, security being no matter the size or the budget of the production, kind of everybody benefits from that high bar that we have for security at Amazon. Security is job zero. We love to say that. So even, your smaller, maybe lower budget, unscripted piece of content, way over here is going to get the same level of security as your major tentpole title, which is great.
But, I mean, also something else that's come up in recent years is people looking at environmental benefits as well. So are there some examples you can give around that?
Definitely. So Amazon has goals around sustainability, which Avid on AWS indirectly impacts. And just, you all have probably heard the stat from the BAFTA Albert review that this was a 2023 study, that 51% of a given production's carbon footprint comes from the emissions related to transport, moving equipment and people around from to all over the world. And when you can have a globally distributed workforce that's able to just, hop on the cloud, you don't have to have all of those emissions that are going to moving the people and the equipment around.
Yeah, it's a great benefit of those kind of workflows as well. Daniel, coming to you next, let's talk about some of the practicalities of really what we've been talking about here. So, if someone wants to spin up a system that's got NEXIS working in it, it's got Media Composer, what does that architecture kind of look like?
I mean, that's the beauty of what we've done. So thank you guys for having us here. But as we looked at how do we solve these scale challenges, right? I mean, with AWS, we have the ability to extend to different types of file systems. So when we look at customers come to us with, we have differing performance needs, we can really tailor Nexus with now the different offerings from S3 Express One Zone and Amazon S3 Storage, where now we can get some cost efficiencies. The way to stand it up is a lot faster. So to Rachel's point, we're not transporting racks of gear anymore. That will take a couple of weeks to stand up, days to get things wired up. We go in and it's templatized, and we can spin up a brand new, Nexus environment in a matter of an hour, right? You can go from concept to creation in a fraction of the time, keeps the creative teams going, creative juices flowing, um, allows you to access all the global talent. And to Danny's point, it's seamless to an end user. So if I need to spin up a new editor because a shot changed or we need to change this scene, getting that up and running and bringing that to life to the forefront is a lot faster now. So you get set to screen much quicker.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think as well that we've seen in recent times is, people want to utilize the cloud really where it brings the most benefits. But I also think that hybrid is an important part of that sort of story as well. So from an AWS, we're going to come on to talk about Avid Content Core, where hybrid's a key part of that. But from an AWS perspective, what's your view of hybrid type workflows?
I think it's, ultimately we have to meet the customers where they're at. That's our main goal, right? And in this case, customers being our editors, they need to have the best experience possible. And in some of those cases, it does require being able to leverage the systems they have on premises as well. So hybrid is, I think it's not going to go away. Danny made a good example of, all the content, being able to have the scale of the content in S3 and Amazon S3. That's really difficult to do on premises. I mean, those are massive storage. That's a massive storage footprint on premises, and we're not going to have that at a remote, editor's facility. The Nexus Remote and Hybrid enables that to happen, so we can still keep the scale of the content, but now we're taking advantage of the talent, on-prem. They can still have their high performance workstation if they need to use it, and it's still easily accessible and it's still globally distributed. And I don't think it's going to go away. And I think being able to have insight into where that content is at any given time is absolutely critical for these productions as they're trying to move move to distribution.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of segues into talking about Avid Content Core. So Danny, for people who really don't know, explain a little bit about what Avid Content Core is, and also I guess the fact it's really foundational that it's on AWS.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So obviously we're launching Content Core at the show. So actually the demos, if you go around and look at the pods, it's all shipping, right? Our kind of goal with Content Core is to create like an intelligent sort of data layer across your entire organization. So if you think today, there's lots of disparate systems and pieces of storage, right? NEXIS might be one of them. In fact, you may have many others. And typically there's great ways of just looking into individual kind of sets of data, right? You might have an S3 bucket, there's lots of tools that can look at that, but how do we look at what's on the Nexus on premise? And how do we look at, maybe a NAS that we have somewhere as well? Really what we're trying to do with Content Core is give you kind of a global view across all those kind of disparate systems, and the central view, the central ability to both find and then obviously make content there as well. And really, honestly, we wouldn't have been able to do that without the power and the scale that AWS provide us, right? We're doing this as a SaaS service, multi-tenant, you made a great point, Rachel, about security. We have to, if we're going to do this, it has to be at the most secure, level possible. We couldn't really do that with anyone else other than an AWS. So all of that intelligence that you're going to see on the pods here is built on the foundations of what AWS to be able to provide us at hyperscale.
And just as we were talking about there with Daniel, hybrid is an important part of that because Avid Content Core is a layer that can sit on top of it, Media Central, which primarily for our customers is running on-prem.
Correct. So obviously, I mentioned NEXIS. Media Central is obviously another huge part of that. So you think about news organizations who might have multiple Media Central systems globally, they can now see all of that through one view, but we don't change the way that they work day to day when they're in the office and they need to go to air on their Media Central system. Suddenly it's not this kind of let's rip it out and replace everything, but we're able to provide this layer over the top. It provides a lot of intelligence, provides a lot of capability, but keeps people going to air on a daily basis, like they know, like you've trained all of those teams to do, and then they can transform and transition over time when the time's right and when they're the technology is in place, or the teams are just ready to do it, right?
Yeah, it's all about helping people modernize. I think without disruption is one of the themes that we have. So I know it's great to sit here and listen to all this chat, but let's actually see Avid Content Core. So to do that, we're joined by my colleague Anna Buzzard, and Anna is going to show you a demo of Content Core built on the foundation of AWS. So Anna, I'll hand across to you.
So coming over onto our Avid Content Core, the first thing you see is our landing page here. So the way we get the content for the landing page is based on a recommendations engine. So it recommends content that the user is going to need to use in their daily basis based off of things like wires that are coming into the system, what's trending, what topics are trending for them, and what's going forwards. I can go down and you can see within here we've got searches, we've got collections and all sorts of things going on. And as Craig and Danny, you've both said, everything here is only possible because of the foundation that AWS give us. Moving on, we've also got our editor within here. So I have a much faster and easier web editor. If we come on to the edit that I've been creating here, inside this new editor, which is also based all on AWS as well, I can go and find my content. And I've just been putting together this short shot for Keir Starmer and some of the oil prices that have been going on recently in the UK. But you can see within the web editor, I've got a lot more functionality than we've previously had. So you've got things like picture-in-picture. We've got all of our graphics and our bumps going on within there. You've got audio rubber banding that you can do and audio leveling. And if I come in and I want to then publish out, for example, to, I don't know, maybe my social media channels, I can set my picture-in-picture, and you can see the adaptive graphics at the top there going from 16:9 to 1:1. So this is all possible because of what AWS have given us.
And I think as well, Anna, the edit experience there, because this is all running in a browser. This isn't running on a workstation or anything, it's just running in a browser and you can connect from anywhere. And the user experience is really exceptional.
Yeah, the speed at which I get from this is 0 to none. Like the scrubbing, it's all perfect. There's no lag at all within any of this. What I can also do is I've got a notification here. So if I go to my notifications, I've been given a review and I need to have a review of an edit that somebody else has created for the oil prices. So I can go through and just play through this clip. And if I have any comments, I can just add some comments. So change the graphics here. And I can pop that in. Maybe I could use a span as well. So we're going to go through and just select and ask them to change a whole section of the clip. And that will then allow the editor to see what they need to do. So I've moved from being an editor myself to reviewing. This could go to a legal department if you need to. Depending on what's happened, then I can say, okay, this is either reviewed or approved or rejected. So I'm going to reject this one. And then the editor would then need to go back and just switch to their web editor. And as soon as they've done that, they can just click on those comments. They can then re-edit the piece and package, and once you're finished and done, you've got the capabilities here to render out to all of your social media channels. So we can go to Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, everything that you've got available to you, all from one window.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're not showing here, but Wolftent News, which is our key story-centric, collaboration tool, it's running on AWS as well. And so, what Anna's done there is she's rendered this out, and you can see at the top that could render out different versions, different sizes for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok as well. Using something like Wolftent News, you could say, well, maybe all I need to do is I need to publish to one of these platforms. So you can set up workflows, again, running in AWS, where it can be really specific, and you can even automate some of this process that when clips are approved, that whole thing happens automatically. So Anna, just a final question from you about, I think within the industry, it's all about remote collaboration. It's all about helping teams work more efficiently together. What kind of feedback are we getting from customers who are looking at Avid Content Core and what it can deliver for them?
I think people are amazed at the speed at which, one, this has been delivered as a company from the kind of foundation to now. And we can't thank Amazon for the help with all of that enough. And also going forward, the amount of changes and iterations and keeping people future-proofed for going forwards and what's to come.
Yeah, and it's also about that connection to Media Central as well. So our customers can continue what they're doing with Media Central, but with Content Core on top, just add additional capabilities and functionality to it as well. So everybody, thank you very much to Anna Buzzard.
Thank you.
So Danny, coming back to you, one of the things that we've talked about as a general theme, and it's so great that we've got AWS with us, it's about partnership. It really is about partnership. And we see that as key to how we deliver workflows across, a range of our different tools. What's the kind of feedback that you've been getting about the partnership that we have with AWS and how it's enabling new workflows for our customers?
Yeah, I think it's been great. Oh, am I on? I think it's been great. I think especially people seeing the evolution of the partnership as well. I think that's really important. Is when we came to market, we had a really, really high performance solution, which is fantastic. But being honest, it kind of fit a certain part of the market, right? And I think people have started to see that evolve. What we've been able to do with some of the things like Content Core, but things like the NEXIS remote piece we already mentioned, is really start to change the dynamics there around who actually can start accessing this stuff as well. So being able to deploy rapidly onto things like S3 have really kind of changed the conversation. And that's only really been able to happen with that partnership, being able to do that together, right? As we start to kind of build on top of the foundation of what we've been able to do, where we had like the NEXIS file system, which was, restricted to working at certain speeds, but, really kind of needed high performance. We've been able to do that together to actually kind of tune that and fine tune that to the point where we're actually able to, run on technologically slower bits of storage, but get the performance that editors need. So I think that can only really happen with the power of the partnership. So there's a number of layers to this. One is the technology layer, and I think the other piece is then also things like the access piece, and actually then starting to make this stuff easier and simpler for people, not just to be able to access, but also deploy as well. So again, a lot of support there to be able to start bring this to market in a way that people can, effectively click a few buttons and deploy this into the cloud.
Yeah, and just to pick up on that, I mean, Dan, you talked earlier on about, setting up a NEXIS and Media Composer in the cloud. I mean, one of the things about Content Core is it's SaaS. I mean, that's what it is. So talk a little bit about that and what that means for our customers.
I think a lot of times in a lot of these complicated systems, for lack of a better example, I mean, there's a lot in here, right? Reducing that barrier to entry reduces friction, reduces confusion, reduces frustration for the users and the editors. And that's what is super important about it. Something with Content Core being SaaS like that, the onboarding is going to be obviously a lot easier, right? It's provide an email address, for lack of a better example, and things like spinning up a NEXIS environment is a couple of clicks of a button and let the computer do, very similar to what we saw in Content Core when it was rendering out. You just wait for these bars to complete in 10, 15 minutes and it's moving on. And that efficiency just makes that frictionless, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what's super important. We can work with, the partners to kind of gain feedback from customers, provide that back. Here are some areas that we can improve and continually iterating those processes to make it smoother for the end users.
And Anne, I'm actually going to come back to you because I think one of the things that's different about what we're looking to do with Avid Content Core is about continuous deployment. It's not going to be about a monolithic release that comes out every 6 months that people have to deploy. So talk a little bit about how that's going to make things different, about how we can deliver really quickly additional capabilities and functionality.
Yeah, I think it comes down to all sorts of things. The features will be available as soon as they're ready for once, which we often have features ready months in advance of a release, but we can't get them out because you have to wait the next 6 months for that release cadence, or 9 months, or if you're a broadcaster, maybe 5 years. It depends on your cadence. So now we can deploy as soon as that feature is ready. We test it. It might be a week or so, and then it's out and it's ready for the customers. And the same with a bug. You know, it can be days. You report it to us. A week later, you've got the fix and it's ready for you to go back on air. So that's really, really key to all of our customers. And I think it makes everybody move at a much more cohesive and faster speed.
But also they have the option of choosing whether they want to update or not, because they may be happy with what they have and don't necessarily take advantage of new workflows as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Brandon, really as a final point, you know, it's a year on from the start of the partnership. 4 years, as you mentioned earlier on, Rachel, when Amazon MGM Studios have been working with Avid. So, you know, this is something as a partnership that's evolving and developed. What do you see coming up for the future?
All of your hopes and dreams fulfilled. You know, here's the thing. Exactly. Realistically, though, so Avid and AWS are both members of the Movie Labs forum, and Movie Labs has a spectacular vision with all these principles about how production should be done in 2030. And it's not a bunch of rules. It's a vision. How do we get there? What do we think it should be doing in 2030? And we're moving very quickly toward that vision. Right? We've been working together. And we're delivering those things. We're delivering the pieces that allow people to work in the cloud, that allow people to scale, that allow people to work the way that they want to work, where your data is not getting thrown around, you're not moving things around. I mean, the idea that you have to lift and grab and move huge amounts of content and send it all over town and to the other town and everything, you don't want to do that. And so we continue to work with Avid and other partners, but we continue to work with Avid to say, what is the next workflow that we need? How do we make that happen? And not only how do we do it and deliver this with the power of AWS and the scalability, but how do we make it good? We don't want to just do this. We want to make it something that people want to use, that is useful to them and helps their business.
The partnership with AWS really is critical, and some great practical examples there of how the partnership's working in practice, enabling teams to collaborate and work together in new ways and driving real business efficiencies. Scan the QR code, which is on the screen now, if you want to find out more about the partnership between Avid and AWS and how to take advantage of some of the remote workflows that we were just discussing. To get all the information you need on Avid Content Core, then scan the code you can see now. Now, as always, if you're listening to the podcast, you can get all of this information from the show notes. That's all from us for now. Thanks to all our guests, to Rachel, to Daniel, Brandon, Danny and Anna for their great contributions. Now remember, there's a great back catalogue of episodes of Making the Media, not just from this season, but stretching all the way back to 2021. My, how things have changed since then. But you can check them out on your platform of choice. What hasn't changed is our commitment to bring you insights from the people making the media. From me, for now, thanks for listening and watching, and see you next time.